Today you're going to be starting to practice with some graphite pencils, and graphite is what we're using to shade in your portraits. We are going to be using just two of the graphite levels. So one of the ones you're going to be using is called 3H, and the H stands for hardness of the pencil lead or graphite. So that's going to be a lighter pencil for shading. The B on 4B stands for blackness, so it's going to be darker. So if you're trying to shade something that is lighter, use a pencil that has an H. If you're trying to shade something that is darker, the graphite is going to be softer, so you will use a B pencil for things that are darker. So I want you to start with the practice, and I will be giving you not only the two pencils to work with, but also a blending stub. You'll use a smaller one for smaller details, a larger ones for larger details. And I do need to make sure to get these back at the end of each class, so you can only take one at a time. This is what the blending stub looks like. So you'll have that and your pencils to work with. So I want to go from light to dark on this one. It says is going to be the lightest, so I'm going to be starting up here. And what I want you to do is just work on pressure. And like I said, this one is the lightest. This is your H pencil. You can make it darker as you go, but with the H, you can't go as dark as you can go with the B pencil. So you can see that my graphite is getting a little darker. I'm going to go ahead and right about here switch over to my darker, my B pencil. And I don't need to press very hard with this, because just by not pressing hard with it, it's still going to be darker. I was pressing really light here and getting harder and harder. I need to go back to pressing light here with the B pencil because it's a darker, softer lead. Softer meaning it's just going to come out darker because the lead is not as hard. And then I'm going to get as dark as I can with it. So I want you to practice that. And then over here, we're going to do a continuous scale. So this was stepping. Here, I'm going to start shading, and I'm going to continually get harder with this one so you can see my graphite getting darker. And then I'm going to switch over. So I again need to start soft here so that it blends. And then I'm going to start to go even darker. You can practice over here using the stub just to see how it works. So I'm just going to come in, and it's going to allow me to really blend that graphite in. And again, I'm doing a big area, so I'm using a bigger stub. Okay, so I want you to practice that first, and this is going to go into your notebook. Then when you're ready, you're going to begin using the graphite on a portrait drawing. You should not be shading until you're done with your drawing. So here is my portrait paper. I'm going to go ahead and quickly draw out a portrait so that you can see and see if you're missing anything. I'm going to draw on my 3H pencil. So you can also draw on this if you want. So I'm starting with my egg shape, and my pencil should be done very lightly. And I know that that's a little bit hard to see. I'm going to also go ahead and map it out so that I get my equal distances. If you haven't done this yet, follow along with this. So I'm just using my pencil to map out my distance. I need to bring it over a little bit. And again, I'm drawing really lightly so I can easily erase. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that in. See where I ended up. A little off. Actually going to go right down the middle. That should be equal. And then I'm just going to check these ones. It's pretty good. I need to go a little shorter on my jawline. And I saw a lot of people afraid to change their jaw shapes yesterday. Don't be afraid to change the shape of that jaw to be more natural. It doesn't have to stay the shape of an egg. That was just our starting point. Okay, so I'm just changing the shape a little bit. I'm going to go in and put my eyes in. So I'm measuring from this line because that's my line I ended up saying was centered. Then I'm going to try to measure. I think that's too wide. I'm going to come in a little bit. So I'm measuring from that line to that line, which is about to that gray. Not bad, a little off. Alright, so I'm going to go with my eyes being right here. Remember, you have that curved part. And the iris. My nose is going to be, so I got kind of my basic eye shape. Don't forget that those interior corners should have this curved line inside that shows where the inside of the eye is. And then my nose is going to be from the eye line about a third of the way down the paper. So I'm just going to map that out. And then a third of the way down the paper, map my mouth out, try to check it. Again, it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to give you a basic outline. I went a little too far down, so I'm going to go a little up. Okay, so this is where my nose is going to go, and we talked about the width of the nose was going to be about the width of between the eyes. So that means that I'm going to put in my nose here, like so. Using that method we practiced, the bottom of the nose should be hitting that line. So this is my center circle. Coming out into my smaller circles, we want it to reach out to those measurements we put. And then I'm going to come in and shade that, or start preparing it. Getting rid of the parts I don't need, so turning these into the backward nines, bringing the nostril around this way. And then getting rid of things I don't need anymore. And I'm ready for shading with that, but I'm going to go ahead and keep moving through getting everything sketched out. So with my lips down here, you can use the circle method for that too. So where I think my lip, top of my lip might be, remember the eyes, bring the width down. Okay, so it's the width of, it can be actually a little further out, more like the iris or pupil area. Should be the width of the mouth. So I just made some lines for that, and I already have that bottom area that shows. So I'm just putting in that top circle. I'm going to go a little bit bigger on that, I think. And then my 2 bottom circles to give me the general shape. And I'm going to come across, kind of dip down with that shape of that bottom circle, come across again, and then I'm going to bring this around my circles there. They can, if you want a smaller lip, you just make smaller circles, and you can change the shape of this lip. This is a general drawing. Coming up to here, I'm going to come right into the middle to put my Cupid's bow area. And then I'm going to come in and get rid of those circles. If you erase part of the lip, don't forget to put it back. Okay, this is a pretty full set of lips. Maybe I want these lips to be less full. Maybe they're too big, so I can, you know, change the shape. I have my basic area I want. So there we go. I made her lips just a little bit smaller. So I have like a general shape that of all the features I want, and they're mapped out and they're proportioned correctly. Now remember, this is your forehead up into the hairline. So I'm gonna put a neck in, curving out, so it comes out by the side of the head. It's got to be thick enough to hold your head up. And then I'm going to erase any lines I don't need still, and I'm going to just go ahead and start inputting everything, and then I'll show you some shading. I'm putting in my hairline here, just a general shape of the hairline. So it just depends on what you want your person to look like. I'm going to also go ahead and put in my ears, which we said are about from your top of your eyebrow to your nose. And you can see my hairline comes right in front of my ears. If your hair is down, you're not going to see the ears. So, for the ear, you're only going to see part of it. So you just are going to kind of come down, giving that lobe down here so it comes out, the earlobe. You're not seeing a lot of it. You're looking at a frontal view. So you can just kind of sketch out what you think the front of an ear might look like, looking head on with that lobe in there. And I'm going to start showing you some shading. So I'm going to come in and start with the harder pencil, so the 3H that I just finished drawing with. I'm going to come in and I'm going to start shading some things. I don't want to go too dark first because I can always go back in with a darker pencil and add more. So when I'm shading my lips, and you can use the side of the pencil or you can use the tip, it's up to you, but you have to control that pressure. Halfway across the lips I'm going to shade this way, so I'm going to go with like a curve shading. And then I'm going to shade the other half of the lips going the other way. And again, the stub that you're going to use to blend, you're going to want to use depending on where you're working. So if it's a really small detail, you're going to want to blend with a really small stub. And I'm darkening up that area. I'm going to go ahead and shade that in. Now, that evens out all the tone there, or the darkness, so I'm going to come back in and I'm going to add a little darker toward the far end. If you want to add like a reflection, you can do that as well, just by erasing some of your graphite. So I'm getting some texture back in there too, because your lip actually has a lot of little lines on it. And then I can go in and I can reblend a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to do the same thing with the other portion of the lips, but before I do that, go in and work on the eyes. So I'm just going to think about the different shades and values. This is a light pink in real life, so I want to do it pretty light. And then I want to come in and I want to work on my iris. There's lots of different ways to do your iris. The method I showed you gave some little star bits. You do want to, I'm going to give it a nice shading all around of one flat tone to begin with. And don't color in straight lines for the eye. I would color kind of around. Very gently at first. I do not want to have a bunch of straight scratchy lines, so color around. And then I'm going to go in with my darker pencil. I'm going to get my pupil in there. And the pupil's black, so go very dark. I also don't suggest brushing off your paper with the side of your hand. It will smear the graphite. You can blow off the excess. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to do a little, I'm going to use a small small blending stub to blend that. Blend the iris. I'm leaving that reflection open and I want that to show up a little more, so I'm actually going to outline it as well with the H pencil. And I think I'm going to go a little darker in the center and let it go lighter as it gets out. So I'm just darkening up right around the iris there. Let me see if I can zoom in for you so you can kind of see. And I can come in with my darker, but again, be careful with the dark because you gotta use it really lightly. Just creating some kind of design in the eye. I'm gonna outline this a little bit darker. And I'm still gonna go in and blend that, and I'm blending still in that circular motion. And when you're doing the skin tone, nothing's going to stay all the way white. So if I'm going in to shade this, I would use the H pencil first. The B is a little less friendly as far as shading. Use the side of your pencil. And as far as the nose, you want to go in and shade this. And then I gently want to go in very lightly and start to shade kind of a little darker around the eye, since that's set back further and has a shadow cast by the brow bone. And I'm just gently going around the eye. And I can use my blending stump to pull the graphite across my paper. I would go ahead and just start in a small area and then go in and blend it. And I'm coming down a little darker along the edge of the nose. I also want to go in and shade my nose. So like we did when we learned about noses, I go in and I do like a shading using a circle, leaving a little bit of a highlight on the tip of the nose. And then I come in darker towards the edges of the nose, leaving it a little bit lighter and working my way up into that bridge of the nose. And again, the bridge is going to be, it's going to be a little darker at the edges and coming into a little bit lighter in the middle. We can darken some things up as we go. So I'm going to come in with my stub, and just carefully start shading. And a lot of this is getting blended together, so I might have to come in and redefine a few things. Like I need to definitely come back in and get my nostrils back in there. That was with my dark, my black, my B pencil, and then I'm coming back in with my H and really developing the tip of the nose and trying to do a smooth transition up into the bridge of the nose. And this is something I didn't show you the other day, and that's putting in this area above the lip. So it goes like curved out, and then these ones curve towards each other. And then you'll shade that in very lightly, a little darker in the middle portion because that's recessed. And you can use the small blending stump to blend those in. And again, if it gets too blended, you might have to go back in with your eraser and maybe get rid of some graphite to give it back some highlight and reblend a few things. It shouldn't all blend together into one value or one tone. And I can go in up here with my bigger stump and start blending. Shading is always about going back and fixing things. I'm going to go in with my black, my B pencil, my 4B pencil, and I'm going to just emphasize, which means to bring out, bring the focus on. Adding a little bit of a darker line around the eye. And I'm going to go ahead and add those eyelashes in too. And remember, those eyelashes are growing out of the eyelid. So they're coming out of the middle kind of, and then they're swooping up. And they can cross this line down here, but you want it to look natural and like they're coming out of the eyelid. So it's kind of a Nike swoosh that changes directions as it comes up and gets shorter toward the interior. And this lower lid, they can come right off of it, or you can even put in a little ridge for it, but they need to grow out of the lower lid and change direction as well. So that'll kind of give you your eye. With shading, I can go in and make my eyebrows a little bit darker with the 4B. Again, your eyebrows grow up a little before they start to go over. And I'm just going to keep shading, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see. Going back to my stick primarily to your 3H, and then you can always build up with the 4B after.